Well, good morning. My name is Michael Grego, and I have the pleasure of serving as superintendent for Pinellas County Schools. We're here today in the company of a distinguished guest from across the state to talk about some very important topics, positive role models for our students, especially the male role model for male students. Today, schools across Florida will celebrate Dads Take Your Child to School Day. And right here at Gibbs High School, we have All-Pro Football Hall of Famer Coach Tony Dungy here to speak to us to honor this day. And really, in honor of our students in the audience and the positive role models in their lives, I want to thank you. I'd like to thank the Department of Education, Chancellor Herschel Lyons, who you'll meet in a few moments, and the Florida Council for the Social Status of Black Men and Boys for playing an integral role in making this day come together. And thank you to our school board of Pinellas County for your support for not only this event, but for all the innovative work that's underway to support our students. I'd like to take a moment and introduce our school board chair, Peggy O'Shea, Vice Chair Terry Krasner, our board members Linda Lerner, Renee Flowers, and Carol Cook. Thank you very much for your support. And also thank you to the superintendents who have joined us from throughout our region to listen to this morning's program, and they will be participating in the second half. This is unprecedented that we have this number of superintendents to discuss this very important issue. Kurt Browning, Superintendent of Pasco County. Jacqueline Birds, Superintendent of Polk County. Jeff Akins, Superintendent of Hillsborough County. Diana Green, Dr. Diana Green, Superintendent of Manatee County. Ms. Lori White, Superintendent of Sarasota County. Thank you to my colleagues for being here today. I would now like to introduce the principal of Gibbs High School, Mr. Reuben Hepburn. Mr. Hepburn has been with Pinellas County Schools for 20 years, serving as principal since 2010. He's been the leader of this magnificent school since 2015. Please welcome Mr. Reuben Hepburn.
I want to say good morning to our distinguished guests, school board members, and school district administrators from other school districts. I want to say good morning and welcome to Mayor Rick Kreisman and his team, and also want to say welcome to our fans, our guests here at Gibbs High School. Welcome. I want you to know that this day would not be possible if it weren't for our faculty and staff members who work very closely with our 5,000 role model young men. I want to give a special thank you to our 5,000 role model mentors from across the district, the county, and the state of Florida. Where are you? Let's give them a round of applause, please. I also want to say thank you to the hardest working administrative team in the state of Florida. And I want to call them out by name because many of you have already met them, but we want to make sure that we recognize them for making sure that this event kicks off and ends with a success. I want to thank Ms. Holcomb, Ms. Diaz, Mr. Machado, Mr. Patrick. I want to thank Mr. Vassallo and Ms. Hawthorne. And I also want to thank our head plan operator and his team, Mr. Greg Sumner. Let's give them all a round of applause, please. And I don't know if Chief Holloway is in the building or Assistant Chief of Police, Luke Williams, but I want to say thank you for allowing us to work with some of the finest police officers in the state of Florida who are serving as escorts for Mr. Tony Dungy. Finally, I want to say thank you to our superintendent, our fierce leader, Dr. Grego, for doing such an outstanding job in guiding and leading the school district. We at Gibbs High School, home of the Gladiators, are honored to host this important event. More than 1,300 students call Gibbs High School home. We are considered home of the Gladiators. And here at Gibbs High School, we believe in respect, excellence, and pride. That respect, excellence, and pride is modeled or exemplified through our JROTC program that engages students in leadership and character building. We have students from our JRTC program here today to present the colors. Following the presentation of the colors, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and our student, Ms. Gianni, she will go ahead and lead us in the national anthem. Could you all please stand as we present the colors? Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early lights what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated.
That was wonderfully done. And I would now like to take a moment and recognize why we're here, the students. And they're with us here today on Dads Take Your Child to School Day. The parents, the mentors, the principals, the coaches. We have students from Northeast, Gibbs, and Lakewood High Schools. We have students from Lealman Innovation Academies, John Hopkins, Meadowlawn, Bay Point Middle Schools, Campbell Park, Fairmont Park, Lakewood, Maximo, and Melrose Elementary Schools. Welcome to our students. As Mr. Ruben Hepburn mentioned, we want to recognize our male student mentoring programs represented today. We have the 5,000 role models. Welcome. I want to notice that my tie today is one of the 5,000 role models. Thank you for sharing that. It's a special tie. But we also have Men in the Makings and the Pointer Institute's Right Field programs and Men of Yesterday and another program we added this past year, the Lunch Pals program, which over 300 mentors sponsored by Raymond James Financials. They meet with students and mentor students once a week at lunch. And this is a great example how the community, the business community, can get involved with our schools. And to the fathers, the mothers, the mentors, the coaches, the guidance counselors, the head custodians who work so well with all of our students, the lunchroom personnel, it takes caring adults That's what it's all about. I want to thank you for what you do with our students each and every day throughout this entire region, not just Pinellas County. Thank you for your positive leadership, because I want you to know today that your leadership is recognized in terms of in the lives of students, especially our male students. When I think of role models, I think of, and have guided me throughout my career and growing up, I think of special people, some of which are athletic coaches, some guidance counselors, teachers, but I also think of my father. My father's no longer alive. However, I'll always remember some of the values that all of these mentors had on me, values centered around education, about applying yourself fully each and every day, values centered around discipline. See, they all taught me the example to behave and treat others the way you would like to be treated. And I could still hear the values about integrity as defined about doing what you're supposed to do when nobody is watching. And specifically, my dad used to say before I left school in the morning, remember your last name. That's what you're wearing, and never embarrass it and always wear it proudly. So act accordingly. And I could always remember those mentors who continued to encourage me to take risks and to dream big and to believe that you could accomplish whatever you set your mind to. And in fact, I would attribute my standing here today to many of those mentors who pushed me at times when I would not believe that I would ever be standing here in this position. As I raised one male student, I can look back and see how his athletic coaches, his teachers, his guidance counselors certainly, and hopefully his father certainly had an impact on him too. Our students can never have too many role models, no matter what their positions, no matter who they are. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who in many respects is a role model for the field of education. Mr. Herschel Lyons, Chancellor of the State Chancellor for Education for the state of Florida. Mr. Lyons started the Dads Take Your Child to School Day event when he joined the Department of Education. It has really grown in just a few years. It's grown to something throughout the entire state of Florida because it is about the importance of male role models in the lives of young men. Mr. Lyons spent 30 years in Alachua County School District, where he began his career coaching and teaching. He worked his way up and served as a middle and a high school principal. He then went on to serve administrative roles and was the deputy superintendent in Alachua County. At that time, he was appointed as chancellor of the state of Florida. I've heard him say that he believes that with the right guidance, every single student has boundless potential. We're fortunate in our state to have Chancellor Lyons leading our public school system. So please help me welcome Mr. Herschel Lyons.
Wow, lights, camera, but most importantly, thank you so much, Dr. Grego and the Pinellas County School System. This is by far one of my favorite days. I started with the support of the Alachua County Public School System, the Dads Take Your Child to School Day, when I was a deputy superintendent in Alachua County. It's something very close to my heart, encouraging fathers and male role models to take an active interest in their students' education. And I'm so pleased to be here with you today. As you heard earlier about Dr. Grego, I've been in this business over 35 years, but it still feels like yesterday that just as the students that are sitting out there, sitting in a room a lot like this, and then I became a teacher, a coach, a principal, a deputy superintendent, and now it still frightens me to say that I am the chancellor of K-12 public schools, which means I'm responsible for the student achievement of all public schools in Florida. But being here with you today reminds me that I wouldn't be here where I am if it wasn't for a strong role model in my life. There was time when I was in school that I started going down the wrong path, quite frankly. My father wasn't around as he was incarcerated for over a year. And my mother took us to visit him, and she said he was in the hospital because everyone had on white. But my father said it was okay for me to share that as he's continued to live at almost 90 now. He said, but be sure you share with them that I was wrong. But the fact of the matter is that I was asking my supervisor to ensure that I received the same pay that all veterans, because he served in 3 different branches, Army, Navy, and Air Force, and at that time, you would receive a higher pay per hour as a veteran. And the supervisor said no. So seeing that he only had 3 boys at home with a wife, he decided to break in the next day and was caught and, quite frankly, was incarcerated. He said, son, it was wrong. There's no excuse about it. But it's my expectation as your father of 5 sons that you never make that poor decision because you felt like you were wrong. You followed the process. I lived in a rough neighborhood where it was easy to get in trouble. There was a lot of people who were trying to pull me in the wrong direction. Rather than thinking about college or job, I started wanting to be a part of a gang. At that time, it was called the Barbershop Boys. Yes, it is funny. But I can tell you that they broke the law and sometimes went to jail. And I so wanted to be a part of them. So much so that I wore the colors, I stood by the barbershop, and hoped that they accepted me. I didn't work hard and risk not graduating in high school. My teacher spent more time managing my behavior in class than actually teaching me. There were a lot of people in my life who were already calling me a failure and assumed I wouldn't amount to anything. There were lots of people who gave up on me. Thankfully, I had some people in my life who knew I could be more. They refused to accept that I was meeting my full potential. They started to get involved in my life, just as the 5,000 role models, just as the other mentors that are here. And they pushed me. It was really hard at first trying to catch up, but I started making better choices and set graduation from high school and going to college in my sights. I even had the opportunity to serve as a freshman on the National Black Championship football team for Tennessee State University, led by Too Tall Jones. And I had positive role models in my life to lean on when I needed to. They gave me the courage to do better and believe in myself. And I know I would not be standing here talking to you today if it wasn't for those role models. So today I want to tell you, each one of these students, all of you, the Superintendent Grego, his staff, the principal, your community, your elected officials in this district and around the region, we believe in every one of you. We know without a shadow of a doubt that you have the potential and will succeed in any and everything that you do. If you're focused on education, as you focus on education, students, pay attention in class, work hard and study, you will have more opportunities and options in the future that you can even imagine. It will be hard work, but trust me, it's important. You won't regret it. And to those adults in the room today, I want to sincerely thank you for being here for Dad's Take the Child to School Day. The commissioner was very supportive of this initiative, and she encouraged me to take this on. Thank you for being engaged in the educational process and taking the time to spend it with these very special students, our most precious blessing. I ask that you start to recruit even more positive male role models to get involved in your schools and community. We must continue to reach out to faith-based communities and organization, local fraternities and sororities, college athletes, and our professional communities to find adults who model success and will give our at-risk students the encouragement and guidance they need to succeed. We have to keep supporting our students and doing what is best for them. You are the key to this community by giving all students the best chance at success. I am so confident that if, and speak to those things that be not as though they were, but when we come together to support our students, schools, and communities, we can effect great change in the region, in the state, and quite frankly, in the country and this world. And speaking of someone who's achieved great things, I am proud and privileged to introduce our speaker for today, Coach Tony Dungy. Coach Dungy is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Quiet Strength, Uncommon, and The Mentor Leader. He led the Indianapolis Colts to the Super Bowl victory, the first such win for an African-American head coach, even so much as when he finished the game and entered the stage to receive the Super Bowl championship trophy, he took time to express his appreciation to the football coaches, greats such as Jake Gaither, such as John Merritt, such as Eddie Robinson. He led the Indianapolis Colts to a Super Bowl victory. Coach Dungy established another NFL first by becoming the first head coach to lead his team to the playoffs for 10 consecutive years. Coach Dungy joined the Colts in 2002 after serving as the most successful head coach in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history. He has also held multiple assistant coaching positions. Dungy has been involved in a wide variety of charitable organizations, including All Pro Dads. He retired from coaching in 2009 and now serves as a studio analyst for NBC Football Night in America. He and his beautiful wife, Lauren, have been married for 33 years and are the parents of 10 children, 7 of whom are adopted. Last month, as you know, Coach Dungy was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2016, becoming the first African-American to be inducted as a head coach. So without further ado, it is my honor, my pleasure, most certainly my privilege to introduce to you Coach Tony Dungy.
Thank you. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. It is quite an honor for me to be here. I appreciate the invitation to come and address you today. Thank you so much to Dr. Grego for that invitation. And I'd like to say just a special thank you to your principal, Mr. Hepburn. It's awesome for me to be here and very special for me to be here at Gibbs High School because one of the people who had so much to do with me going to the Hall of Fame and so much to do with our success with the Bucs is one of your alums, Sean King. Sean went to school right here, sat in those seats, and came to us as our quarterback and was a special young man and had so much to do with the development of our team. So for me to come here to his school and be part of this day is very, very special. Also like to thank Chancellor Lyons. It was really his vision to bring this day to fruition. Dads, take your child to school day. He's wanted to see that happen across the entire state of Florida, and that's just awesome. He mentioned I work with an organization called All Pro Dad, and that's one of our big initiatives to get parents, but especially men, involved and get them out to the schools on a regular basis. It's so important. I actually was at my two boys' school yesterday for an All Pro Dad breakfast. We had about 60 men there having breakfast with their kids, and it was awesome. That's something that we're excited about. We've been excited to team with the Florida Department of Education in trying to find different ways that we could get that done. One other gentleman who couldn't be here today, who's been a big part of that, is Representative Chris Sprouse, and I want to thank him. He actually introduced a bill into the legislature to allow All Pro Dad to partner with the Department of Education, and we thank him for that. But you may be wondering today why this is so important. Why are we here supporting a Dads and Kids at School Day? To really illustrate that point and why it's important, I want to take you back 40 years. Okay, it hurts me to say that, but that's when I was growing up. 40 years ago, I was sitting in the seats at Parkside High School, a little school in Jackson, Michigan, where I grew up. And my hometown was a small industrial town just outside of Detroit. And in the late 60s and the early 70s, when I was young, the automobile industry was king in Detroit. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I had guys who went to school with me, my classmates, who dropped out of school as soon as they turned 18. If they turned 18 during their senior year of high school, they quit, and so they could go to work in the car factories. They worked for Ford and GM and Chrysler, and you could make very good money, and you could buy cars at a discount. And that's what a lot of boys in my neighborhood did, because that's what they saw. I was very, very fortunate, though. My dad talked to me about education. My dad was a teacher, and he said, if you want to do that, and you want to go to work for the auto industry, do that. But don't do it because everybody else is doing it. Don't do it just to make money. He said, you need to get your diploma, you need to go to college and keep your options open. Well, he said that, and keeping my options open didn't really register to me. Thinking about my future didn't mean a lot, because when I was a teenager, the future was about 6 hours. The future for me was what was going to happen that night, and that's about as far as I looked forward to. But my dad was a pretty wise guy, so he thought about another way to get the message across to me. He knew that I liked sports, and he knew I liked to play ball. So he and my mom said, first of all, no football without grades. And so that made an impression on me. But then the second thing he did, he started taking me to college football games. He took me to University of Michigan and Michigan State, and I'd see these big crowds and see the players out there, and I thought I could do that someday. But he said, in order to do that, number one, you have to go to college. You can't play college football without going to college, and you can't get to college without having good grades. So all of this made an impact. It made me think about what I wanted to do. So it wasn't so much keeping my options open. It was the fact that I had to get good grades to do the thing that I really liked, which was play ball. Well, I ended up playing and finishing high school and getting a scholarship to the University of Minnesota, and I played 4 years there, and I got my degree, and I was one of the fortunate few to go on to play in the National Football League. I played with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We won Super Bowl 13 in 1978, but like so many players, I didn't really understand how short your career could be. I actually played 3 years in the NFL and got traded a couple times, got released, and I was finally done playing at 25 years old. My sports career was over. And at that point, I was glad that I did take my dad's advice, and I kept my options open, and I had my degree, because I could do some things now, and I ended up going into coaching. And that led me to my real career. You know, my short career was football, my long career was coaching, but because I kept my options open, I ended up having that opportunity and having a chance to do what I wanted to do. I ended up coming here to Tampa, coming to the Buccaneers, and eventually to the Indianapolis Colts, and 10 years ago with the Colts, we won Super Bowl 41. and that was a dream come true for me. We got a lot of benefits from that. One of the benefits was going to the White House and meeting the president. And I have to say that growing up as a kid, I dreamed about catching touchdown passes and winning Super Bowls and making money as a football player. Never really dreamed about meeting the president. But that happened after we won that Super Bowl 10 years ago. And President Bush, when I got to meet him and got to know him a little bit, he asked me to serve on his Council for Service and Civic Participation. So I got a chance to do that. And I got a chance to learn about some things that were going on in our country, and especially in our educational system. One of the things I learned was that some things hadn't changed a lot in the 30 years since I was in high school. Secretary of State then, Colin Powell, did a study for President Bush on the state of education in 2006. And he told us something that really, really surprised me. He said in our nation's largest cities, 48% of the high school students were not graduating. And that was almost half, and I couldn't believe that. Now, we've heard a lot about statistics in this area, in our Pinellas County Schools, our Hillsborough County Schools, and some of the statistics aren't very good, but they're improving, they're getting better, and that's a credit to you guys, to our administrators, to our teachers. But I was very surprised then in 2006 to learn that the two school districts on the bottom of the list in terms of graduating students were Detroit, where I was from, and Indianapolis, where I was working at the time. And I thought that was a tragedy, and I thought I could do something about that. So it became a goal of mine to start talking to kids in my hometown area and in the city of Indianapolis where I was living, talk to them about finishing school and doing well and getting good grades, some of those things my dad talked to me about. I wanted to tell them that they needed to keep their options open, but I knew if they were anything like I was, just talking about options wouldn't really do it. I needed to have something that was going to really get their attention. And fortunately, Secretary of State Powell's report gave me that one thing that I needed, something that would get their attention. His report that he gave to us also said something about the results of those kids who dropped out of school. And he told us that kids who drop out of high school, this was 10 years ago, but kids who dropped out of high school would end up making on the average about $9,200 a year less than kids with their high school diploma. And if you look at that and you figure I'm going to work for 45 years and I'm making $9,000 a year less every year, that ends up being almost $500,000 in the course of your lifetime. And then he told us that college graduates make almost twice as much as high school graduates make. So that became my message to those elementary and middle school students in Michigan and Indiana that I talked to. I told them to dream and think about their future, to visualize getting that high school diploma, but think about it and visualize when you got that diploma, you were not only getting that piece of paper, but someone was giving you a check for $500,000. And that got their attention. Okay? Then I told them, visualize even more. Visualize going to college and getting that college degree and somebody giving you another check for $500,000. So make a choice. Think about this. When school seems like it's tough or it might not be what you want to do or you're not really thinking about your future, you can leave and drop out of school and you'll be okay, but you'll really be giving away $1 million. Think about it that way. And that did get their attention. And I think that part of it, for those couple of years I was able to do that in Michigan and Indiana, really encouraged some kids to keep their options open, set themselves up for a great future. And that's kind of the message here today. Think about your future. Don't be like I was necessarily and just think about tomorrow or next week, but where do you want to be 5 years down the road? Where do you want to be 10 years down the road? Where do you want to be when you're 60 years old like I am? Okay? And reading, doing things the right way, getting those good grades, getting your diploma, going to college, that's going to allow you the best opportunity to be successful and have that bright future. That's what I say to the students. To the parents out here today, I want to say a word to you. I'm so excited you're here, so thankful that you're here, taking an interest in your children's education. I want to talk to the dads specifically who are here and let you know that we've got to find a way, you've got to find a way to get your child's attention. Let them know that school's important. Once you do that, and the next challenge is to help them see that reading is such a great way to do that. Reading is so important. My dad recognized that early on, and he encouraged me, and I thank him for that today. He did more than encourage me, though. He actually tricked me into reading. Okay? He knew how interested I was in sports and how that was just always on my mind. So he'd get the sports page and have me read it to him. And we'd talk about what was going on with the Detroit Tigers, the Detroit Lions, or the Michigan State football team. And he'd ask me questions about what I read. And I was having fun because I was looking at things that I enjoyed. But he was getting me to read and getting me to think about it and understand and process what I was reading. Then he did something really sneaky. He bought me a subscription to Sports Illustrated. And I can remember that magazine, it used to come out on Thursday. It would come in the mail on Thursday. I'd run home after school on Thursday to read my Sports Illustrated and find out what was going on. And in a way, you could say, well, that was a little shallow. My dad was feeding into my sports desires, but he was getting me to read. Okay? I didn't even know it. Okay? But that reading and that practice, it helped me down the road. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to come up with creative ways to get your kids to read. And I would just suggest to the men, one of the best ways that we can do that is reading with your kids. And that's a challenge. Don't always have that link like I had with my dad of sports, that you may be trying to find out what it is that your kids are really in tune to. But I can give you a suggestion. The organization I work with, All Pro Dad, has a great website. And if you go to allprodad.com/read, you'll get a lot of tips. You'll get some books that they suggest that you can read with your kids, tips on how to get them to read more. And believe me, if we do that, it'll pay off down the road. It will help your kids secure that future, keep their options open, and that's what this is all about. So I really appreciate being here today. I appreciate what our teachers here at Gibbs are doing, the administrators. Appreciate the students and the efforts you're making to make your school the best it can be. I just encourage you to keep that going, make Gibbs great. And I think at this point, we're going to take some questions. Is that? We have some students who have questions, and I'd love to take them from you. We'll get the house lights going. Who has the first question there?
What advice would you give me if I wanted to be a role model at school?
If you wanted to be a role model. You know what? That's something that I talked to our players, the very first meeting we ever had with the Tampa Bay Bucs when I took over as head coach. I told them all that we're all role models to someone, okay? And so you have to think about what message that you're sending, because there are people looking at you. There's younger people, there's classmates, there's people you don't even think are looking at you. So my advice is, think about the message that you want to give. Think about how important it is to help other people. Doing things the right way, being positive all the time, that's the best way to be a role model, and that's what you want to do. Who has the next one?
What's happening if I want to play football? The best advice.
The best advice if you want to play football? Mm-hmm. I will say this, and another thing I tell people all the time. You have to work hard as you can to develop yourself as an athlete. But even more important than that is develop yourself as a student. When we invite people to come to practice and see us, one of the things they don't realize is our players are there all day. They come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they leave at 5 o'clock in the evening, just like a regular job. So they're there 8, 9 hours, and there's only 2 hours a day we're actually practicing. Okay? The rest of the time, we're doing classwork. Okay? They're looking at film, they're making notes on their opponent, they're looking at their playbook, reading their assignments, they're doing math, looking at tendencies that other teams use. So much more is involved than just playing the game. So I always tell people, you want to be a college athlete, you want to be a professional athlete, you have to put in twice as much time in classwork as you do physically. So don't neglect your grades, don't neglect your studies, work hard on the field and in the classroom if you want to be an athlete. Who's got the next question?
If racism isn't a factor in education, why are school suspensions and expulsions significantly disproportionate between white and black students?
You know, we can point to racism, and we can use racism as an excuse, okay? Racism is there, and we can't control how other people look at you. But what you can control is how you respond, okay, and how you do things. And I'll give you just some advice that I got from my dad, okay? And my dad grew up in a time, my dad enlisted in World War II so he could fight for our country, even though he knew when he came back there was going to be racism. He knew he wasn't going to be able to ride on certain buses. He knew he wasn't going to be able to teach in certain schools. But he said, you know what? I'm going to be the best that I can be, okay, and make sure that people can't use as an excuse that I don't know what I'm doing, okay, and they can't use as an excuse that I'm not qualified. Okay? So regardless of how they look at things, I'm going to be the best that I can be. And I think that's what we have to do. And there's always going to be negatives. There's always going to be a certain amount of racism. But don't look at everybody that way, because everybody's not like that. And don't use it as an excuse. We need to get ourselves ready and get ourselves where no one can take that from us. And I fought through that in coaching. You know, when I first got into the National Football League, there were no African-American head coaches. It was something that wasn't even thought of. Well, we showed people what we could do, and now it's not even a factor. So you can overcome racism in a lot of ways, and that would be my advice. That yes, there are suspensions, there are things that happen. Make sure we're not the reason. We got one last question, and I don't know who's got the last question of the day. Okay.
Hello, I'm
Yes.
Alice Gilliam. My question is, what was your favorite job and your least favorite job?
My favorite job and my least favorite job. Well, I'll tell you what. My least favorite job ended up being the one that was the most important to me. Okay? It was the first job that I had. And as I said, I grew up in an automotive climate, and everybody I knew was used to working hard. But I got a job when I was 14, and it was basically picking up the garbage around the auto plants in my hometown. And I worked very hard from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And I would come home and I was so tired, I said, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. Maybe my dad was right. I need to make sure I get some good grades so I can go to college. After I graduated from the University of Minnesota, I took several jobs. I worked for the company that's now Target. I worked for General Mills. I worked for Heinz, and all these business jobs. I was a business administration major, and I was looking for that right job for me, that perfect job. I liked them, but I really didn't fall in love with them. And then my coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chuck Noll, gave me a call and said, I think you have an aptitude for football. I'd like you to come back and be an assistant coach for us. And so in 1981 was my first day working for the Steelers. I went to work, and just being around the players and drawing up plays and looking at things. I went home that night and I couldn't wait to get back to work the next day. So I knew that that was my job. And so for 31 years, I ended up coaching in the National Football League, and that was my favorite job. And I have to say my favorite one was being here with the Bucs and getting this one turned around. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Well, we can do better than that. If we were at a Buccaneers game, we'd be a lot louder than this. To whom much is given, much is required. And we're thankful that Tony Dungy uses his celebrity status as a platform to get a very powerful message across. Let's give him another round of applause for that message and also for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here. On behalf of Gibbs High School and on behalf of all the schools represented here today, thank you to the Florida Department of Education and Mr. Lyons for bringing Coach Dungy here today. Thank you, Coach Dungy, for spending time with us today and sharing your important message on role models. Gibbs High School is home to the Pinellas County Center of the Arts. And before we introduce the person that will be performing here on stage, I want to know if we can have the house lights come up as we give special recognition to all of the 5,000 role model students that are here today. Folks, if we could just stand and give them a round of applause, please. To those Gibbs High School students, what's our rep? Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a round of applause. They worked extremely hard, serving as ambassadors, escorts for all of our fine guests. At this time, I'm going to excuse the 5,000 role models for Gibbs High School as they prepare us for dismissal. If they can please exit the auditorium quietly. Just the 5,000 role models from Gibbs High School. Shh. If we can have the house lights remain up while they exit, please. Just the 5,000 role models from Gibbs High School. Folks, next you're in for a treat. Gibbs High School is home to the Pinellas County Center of the Arts, and we showcase some of the finest talent in this country. This morning, this afternoon, you have the pleasure of hearing from, hold on one second, to our students, excuse me, young men, the program is still in session. Thank you. We have the pleasure of listening to one of the finest young men in this area, and I guarantee you, you will get to know and hear and familiarize yourself with this name. We have Mr. Timothy Garner, along being accompanied by Mr. Jamal Dorsey. If they could please take the stage for their performance.
I was born by the river in a little old tin yard, just like that river. I've been running ever since. It's been a long, has it been a long time coming? But I know a change gonna come, y'all. Yes, it will. been too hard living. I'm not afraid to die. I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. Said it's been a long, y'all to wave your hand. Long, no, 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 time coming. I know a change gonna come, y'all. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movies and I go downtown. There's always somebody said don't hang around. Said it's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gon' come.
That was unbelievable. Thank you very much to the Gibbs High School students. At this time, what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 15-20 minute break. We're going to be outside. There's some refreshments outside, but before we dismiss, I want to introduce Mayor of St. Petersburg, Mayor Rick Kreisman, who provided those refreshments for us, so please make sure you thank him. And also a mayor who is dedicated to programs such as mentoring and allows his employees to take time away from their jobs to come into our schools. A mayor who donates and provides resources for Take Stock in Children scholarships. A mayor who focuses on service learning in our schools. Mayor Rick Kreisman.
Thank you, Dr. Grego, and my sincere thanks to you and to the Pinellas County School Board for bringing us all here to Gibbs High School today. I also wanted to thank Tony Dungy for being here today and for being such an important figure in our region and in our community. Tony, thank you for all that you do. And I also have to admit, the only person who could get me to stop in my tracks at the MLK Day Parade was Coach Tony Dungy, who was here this past year, and it was great to see him there at the parade. But most important of all, I want to thank all the students who are with us here today. You all are a part of something special here at Gibbs, and I hope you listened very carefully to what Coach Dungy had to say. Like the coach and a lot of the leaders in this room, I too have a strong commitment to the young black men and boys in the city of St. Petersburg. I've put together a team of people on my staff working out of the Departments of Urban Affairs, the Education and Community Engagement Department, and our Director of Community Engagement and Intervention, who are working on creating opportunities that will change the trajectory of our young people's lives. We're calling the program My Brothers and Sisters Keeper, and we based it off the successful program started by President Obama and have tailored it to our own needs right here in St. Petersburg. And this summer, we launched the successful Not My Son campaign, which was a door-to-door effort to engage parents and ensure their kids would have a safe summer. Drive around South St. Petersburg, and you'll still see those signs in the yards. And soon we will launch our cohort of champions. We're going to seek out 100 young black men between the ages of 12 and 24 and provide mentoring opportunities, development of workforce skills, and role models to them. Look, please don't make any mistake. The work we have to do in front of us is monumental, and it's not going to get done overnight. But I truly believe that we can be a city of opportunity where the sun shines on all, and that means everyone. But to do so, it will take everyone, all of us working together. I know we can accomplish it. Thank you all for being here today.